Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Now, I shared with you some thoughts yesterday trying to connect the dots between Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, and Revelation chapter 20, and the Great White Throne Judgment, the end of the Millennium. Now, as I said yesterday, I understand that that's probably, shall we say, breaking new ground. But let me just remind you, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, Paul is dealing with the saints who are being persecuted by the Jews and promised them relief from that persecution, quote, when the Lord Jesus is revealed from heaven in flaming fire, taking vengeance on those that do not know God. Revelation chapter 20 is dealing with the destruction of the persecutors of God's people in flaming fire at the end of the millennium, which is the coming of the Lord. And Jesus said, behold, I come quickly. This is just powerful to me. So it's understandable that there would be objection to that, at least partly so, okay? But one of the chief objections that people have sent private correspondence to me about is, but wait a minute, Preston, Revelation was written after 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, and they say it's also written after 1 Peter, which, by the way, is where we're going momentarily. So how does that work? If Revelation was written after 1 Peter, after 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, isn't that problematic? Well, to me, it's not problematic at all. It is just simply John continuing the narrative, continuing the promise of 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, and continuing the promise of 1 Peter. But you see, I believe that we have some pretty powerful evidence for believing that Revelation was written before 1 Peter. Let me state that. I believe we have strong evidence to prove that Revelation was written before 1 Peter. What is that evidence? Well, in Revelation chapter 3, Jesus is speaking to the 7 churches of Asia. Take that and put it right over here. Hang on to that. And he says to the church at Philadelphia, indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews, and they're not, for indeed they are liars. I will make them come and bow down before you, and to know that I have loved you. By the way, that's a direct quote out of Isaiah chapter 60. It is the New Testament interpretation of Isaiah 60. Now watch this. This is incredible. Verse 10. Because you have kept my command to persevere, I will also keep you from the hour of trial which shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell on the earth. So, here is Jesus saying to the 7 churches of Asia, there is a fiery trial that is going to come. Well, this is actually from the Greek word melo with the infinitive. It is about to come. Now, there are some former preterists who make the ridiculous argument that melo can only indicate imminence if the event that is being predicted is going to happen within, hours or weeks, at the most months. I don't think they even allow the month idea. But here is the promise, the threat, if you please, of coming persecution against the 7 churches of Asia. And it was about to come. But Jesus promised Philadelphia, because you have kept my command to persevere, I will keep you from that hour of trial, which is about to come. And he promised them, behold, I come quickly. Not in 2,000 years, and not rapidly, quickly. Now, what's the connection here? Well, the connection is found in 1 Peter chapter 1. Now, I want to remind you that John was told that at the end of the millennium, remember what we saw yesterday, at the end of the millennium, Satan would be loosed for a little while. Okay? To make war with the saints. Well, that's directly parallel with Revelation chapter 12, where there is a war in heaven. Satan is cast down to the earth, and he has great wrath because he knows, now watch this, because he knows he has only a little while. A little while. A mikron, a small period of time. You know, a little while of Revelation chapter 20 and verse 8. But he has great wrath. So what does he do in Revelation chapter 12? Same thing he does in Revelation chapter 20. He persecutes the saints. Oh, at the end of the millennium. Okay, he's going out to persecute the saints throughout the world. Okay, Peter, in his first epistle, question, to whom did Peter write? You know the answer to that. To the churches of Asia. Now, please, don't somebody jump up and say, well, he doesn't specifically say the 7 churches. You're going to exclude the 7 churches? Let's not get silly here, okay? Excuse me, but let's just not get silly here. So John is writing to the 7 churches of Asia. Peter is writing to the churches of Asia. John is writing about impending, about to be fiery trial of persecution. Now, mind you, there was already persecution going on, both in Revelation chapter 3, you know, those, they're living in the midst of the city where the synagogue of Satan is, those who say they are Jews, but they are not, for they're liars. There's already animosity, there's already persecution between, the saints and the Jews. That's more than obvious. 1 Peter chapter 1. Peter speaks of the trials that the saints were already undergoing, which was trying their faith, making it more precious than gold, tried by fire. Now watch this. In Revelation chapter 20, Satan would be released for a little while to make war. Revelation 12, he would be cast down to earth to persecute the saints for a little while. Peter, writing to the same people, said they only had to suffer for a little while until the coming of the Lord for their salvation. But now watch this. The suffering of the saints in Revelation was filling up the measure of their suffering, thus filling up the measure of the sin of the persecutors. Just like Revelation 17 depicts Babylon having a cup full of the blood of the martyrs. Okay? Well, guess what? In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 9, resist him, Satan. More, back to Satan in a minute. Resist him, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same sufferings you are experiencing are being experienced by your brotherhood in the world. Well, the Greek here is very interesting. It is literally, you need to take comfort in the fact that your suffering and the suffering of your brethren throughout the world, epiteleo, is filling up the measure of suffering. Revelation, suffering being filled up. Sin of persecution being filled up in the churches of Asia. Behold, I come quickly. Revelation 3. You only have to suffer for a little while until the revelation of Jesus Christ. The coming of the Lord. Now watch this. Remember Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10. Because you have kept my command to persevere, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is about to come on the whole world. Now remember, writing to the 7 churches. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. Beloved, do not think it strange concerning the fiery trial. Now, in the New King James, and in a whole lot of translations, unfortunately, it renders it, do not think it strange concerning the fiery trial that is to try you. No, sorry, that is not correct. Do not think it strange concerning the fiery trial that is in your midst. In who mean? In your midst. It's there. Okay, so in Revelation, you have the prediction of the fiery trial that is about to come. And the promise of the coming of the Lord, behold, I come quickly. In vindication. And I fully agree with Kenneth Gentry, citing Mounce, who said, in the book of Revelation, Jesus promises the church relief from their persecution that was going to come quickly, shortly. And it was at hand. It would have been theological fraud to tell them that their relief was coming quickly, shortly, and soon, and yet it hasn't come 2,000 years later. But that's exactly what modern commentators say. But that's fraud. That's theological fraud. But anyway, you have the promise of the coming tribulation in a very little while, in Revelation. It is about to come. But Jesus was also about to come. Behold, I come quickly, to give them vindication and relief. In 1 Peter, you have the saints who are being persecuted. The promise that they'll only have to suffer for a little while before the coming of the Lord. Their suffering is filling up the measure of sin. The suffering of the saints in Revelation was filling up the measure of sin. Now then, Revelation 20 says, at the end of the millennium, Satan would be released to persecute the saints. Again, just like Revelation chapter 12. So at the end of the millennium, Satan is released and goes about to persecute the saints. Well, let's see. 1 Peter. Now remember, Jesus said In Revelation, that fiery trial was about to come. In 1 Peter, the fiery trial is there. In Revelation, at the end of the millennium, Satan is released to persecute the saints. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil. Well, let's see. Who's doing the persecuting in Revelation 20? Oh, it's the devil. It's the devil who goes about at the end of the millennium to persecute the saints. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks around as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may desire. Folks, we have every constituent element found in Revelation, found in 1 Peter. But in Revelation, it was about to come. And it was coming quickly. It was coming shortly. It was coming soon. I believe this is definitive proof that Revelation was written prior to 1 Peter. Well, by the way, since Revelation predicted the very soon release of Satan at the end of the millennium, and since 1 Peter has Satan as a roaring lion walking about whom he may desire, you know what? To me, that's just pretty clear evidence that what John predicted in Revelation 20, verse 8, to take place at the end of the millennium was taking place in 1 Peter chapter 1, meaning 1 Peter was written at the end of the millennium. And by the way, all of this proves that Matthew 25:31 was fulfilled very soon, very shortly, very quickly from the writing of 1 Peter, from the writing of John. We've got more, so I'll see you on the flip side.